The logical step now is to go and build out our templates. Now, rather than just duplicating the blog ones, I want to build them from scratch just in case you skip the blog one. So I don't want to assume you've watched every single second of this video, which I would love it if you did. So what we're going to do is go over to WordPress Elementor or the template, and we're going to build a shop template, basically for where all the products are, so you can view and buy whatever you want. Then we're going to go and do a single product template as well. So when you actually go into the product, we want to make sure it looks really nice and clean. Let's go to templates, hit save templates. And as I've said a million times already now, go and hit all so you can see exactly what you've got built here. This is the one that's being used for the blog or the layout, but this is the one that's being used for the blog sidebar. Now you can rename them. However, I have found that it's better for you not to do that because sometimes I have found they actually break a little bit. So you might want to keep a record somewhere of exactly what those IDs are. But if you're being very methodical, I know I've only built 2 of them for the blog, so I know what they are. We're going to go to the top, we're going to click add new to add a new template, and we're going to go down here and pick products archive. I'm going to call it shop archive and hit create template. Now I just want to show you what we were using originally for our loop grid for our post. So this is what the layout was like. I want to go for something similar to this for the shop as well. But let me show you what you could do if you weren't going to use Loop Grid. You have a widget over here called Archive Products. I'm just going to drag that in. This is kind of like the standard that you will get out the bag with WooCommerce whenever you're using Elementor or even many page builders. It's very limited as in what you can do here. You can hide items, you can change the styling, but if you wanted the text to be over the image, you're going to have to go and use an extra plugin, or if you wanted the price to be above the image, or if you wanted the image to be below the select options or add to cart, it is very limited as to what you can do. And if you type products, you also then have this version. So the archive products and the products are very similar. This is very much like what we did with the blogs as well. You're going to look at it and go, well, that's exactly the same. What's the difference? Well, you're missing an item over here where you can do sorting, but that's really easy to enable. What you would do is enable pagination and then say allow order and it reappears. But you also have the query option. This is missing in the archive products. A lot of people make this mistake. They start building a website or the page or the template and they just drag in archive products because that's the one you see here. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be dragging in the products if you're not going to use in the loop grid, because now you have the query option to include or exclude categories. So let's say we only wanted to show off casual in here. I would say include. I would then pick term, and then in the term bit here, I would type casual. And now this will only ever show the casual. So maybe you want to have different shops laid out on different pages. Maybe you might have a page dedicated to casual items, for instance. So this could work for you. But as I've already said, I don't want to be limited with creativity in how we're going to create it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to type in loop and we are going to drop this in. Please remember, if you are using Flexbox containers, to use Loop Grid, you got to make sure that Flexbox, containers, and Loop is enabled and activated in your Elementor features. Go to WordPress, Elementor, Settings, Features, make sure they are activated. First thing we're going to do is change the template type to be products like this. And then we're just going to click create template. You can't really do much else here, okay? You can start messing around. I would say don't do any of that. At the moment, it's like a grid of 3 columns. Again, don't worry about that. Just create your template and then you'll have control over how many items are you going to show. Let's hit create template. It will ask you to save. Just do that. And now we can start building. Now you are going to get almost like literally an empty nothing. Don't worry about that. Have a think though at this point about your structure. So are you going to have like your product image here and then have your buy now, add to cart to the right of it? So maybe you want to go with a container set as a row. Maybe go with a container with 2 child containers or columns, if you want to call them that. Or are you going to have everything stacked? So if we look at our blog post, I actually used a call to action widget here. because the call to action allows me to put the wording over it. There are other ways to do it, but this is one of the simplest and easiest and quickest ways to do it, especially if you ever decide to add in a little bit of like hover interaction. So when you hover over it, the image or the wording changes. I have not done that here, but you could do that. So let's go and do that straight away. Let's go and drop in the call to action widget. By the way, you can just drop it in and it will, if we go to the navigator, you'll see that it has now created a container. You don't have to go, oh, I've got to drop a container in first. Now I'll add in the call to action. There's good ways and bad ways to do things. The simplest way is just drop it in and it will put the container in for you as well. Now, if we click on the call to action, the wording is below. If I change this to be a cover, the wording will now go over it. For simplicity, I'm just going to get rid of the title, I'm going to get rid of the description, and I'm going to get rid of the click here button as well. Now, the moment I do that, everything completely disappears. I'm going to make the title of my product actually be a button, so when you click it, it will take you through to the single product template page or where you can see more details. So rather than entering anything in the title or the description, I'm going to go down to button text and I'm going to click the dynamic tags. And then I'm going to scroll down until I get to product title. Remember, don't pick post title. You need the product title. So now we pick it and the wording has come out and we have this style. And it is very similar to what we got here, except we had a bit of a white hover effect. We'll address that in a moment. The positioning though is not great. So let's just go back over to our style tab for the call to action. Let's put it on the left and put it at the bottom. But then I'm going to go in and add in 20 padding from the bottom and 20 from the left. So you can be very specific over your positioning. Now let's go over to the content tab and go over to image over here. We were on the content here, but now we're going to go to the image. Rather than adding in an image like an ice cream van, which will be visible for every product, you want to click the dynamic tags. And you could pick featured image, but it's best to scroll down and go for product image. Click that and we now have our product appear. Now let's do a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to go over to the style, go to the button, go to typography. It's already going to be on railway. Click the pixel size and change that to be REM and pick 1. I'm going to leave it as a 500 medium and I'm going to set my letter spacing to be a 1 as well. I'm then going to close that. I'm not going to change the colors here because it's bringing through all the colors that we've already got in our global library, but I will go to the hover effect and I'm going to say make the text color be the accent color and make the background color be white. And there we go. That's now looking fine. However, if we go back to my blog template, there was a bit of an arrow going on there and we didn't have any animation. At the moment, we've got zoom in effects and the wording moves as well. So let's just completely remove that. Let's go to the hover animation, set it to be none. And for the background, I'm going to set that to be none as well. I'm going to go back to my content, go over here to where we have the button text with product title. If you click the spanner or the wrench, you can actually make this be very specific to a particular product. So you might say, I don't care what product you pick, the minute you hit that button, it will only ever go into one place or one direction. We're not going to do that. We're going to make sure it's dynamic per product. But what you do want to do is go to the advanced tab. And where it says after, I'm going to put space and I'm going to then add in a chevron. Now, what about directing this? Because we haven't completely done that yet. There are two ways to do this. You could, if you want, go down to here where we have link and I could go over to dynamic tags and then click post URL. Now, the other way you could also direct them to the product is I've done it on the button. But I could say actually apply it to the whole box. Let's just update that. And now when we go here, it doesn't matter where I click, and that is a much better way to do it. One last thing before we add any details is I've gone back to my hover effects because I've noticed we're getting this overlay here. So I've gone on to hover and I'm going to click here and I'm just going to make that be completely transparent because sometimes I feel like some effects are really not needed and they take away or they pull you out of what you're trying to show. Now let's add some further items like the text editor. Maybe we want to show off the category. I'm going to give it some margin of 20 on the right and 20 on the left. Go to dynamic tags, scroll down until I get to product terms. I'll then click that. But I'm not liking the word categories being there before the word backpack. So I'm going to click the spanner wrench. it's already selected product categories, which is what I want. If it was sat within more than one category, it will be separated by a comma. Again, I'm okay with that. Or you might want to go with a pipe effect like that. It's entirely up to you what you go for there. Let me just pop that comma back in. We are not directing to just a single product, so leave that set as all. And in the advanced tab, I'm now going to get rid of the before categories like that, because I feel like it's okay just telling us it's backpack. And again, this is very similar to what we did with the blog page, where we will have an archive page for this, and then we'll have a separate shop page where we've got some more fancier filters on there as well. What's really cool is that when you hover over it, if you look at the in the bottom left there, you can see the URL. It's already pointing to product category backpack. And that's one of the things I really like. You don't have to start setting in a separate URL. Okay, great. Now what I'm going to do is if we go back over to here, we did have an excerpt. Now, I'm not going to pull forward the short description or anything like that for the product, because the short descriptions could be very varied or messy, and you might have applied different styling. And if you are using custom fields, which we're not covering in this tutorial, you could bring some of that over as well. So let's say you've generated a custom field or something that tells us a bit more about the branding of the bag, different companies, etc., trademarks, copyrights. You could bring that over as well. Let's just go and bring over the pricing like this. 20 on the left. We'll do our text, do our typography. Again, we're on railway. Are we going to go for a REM of 1? And that actually does look okay. I'm going to drop it down to be a 500 in width. And for the letter spacing, again, I'm just going to drop in a 1 there, just so everything's kind of like pretty standardized. Now, if you find that your items are too spaced out, because I think there's a bit of a gap going on there, I could go to my container, scroll down here where I have gap between elements, and I could set that to be 0. But then you might find that actually now the category is too close. So one of the other ways is just remove that out completely. Go to your pricing field and just give it a negative top margin just to bring things up a bit. And I'm going to go for about 15 there. 20 is a bit too close. I think that's just a little bit better. But what if you want to add a button where they can now add to cart? Because this is all good and well that you click here and it takes you over to the item. But what if you know the item, you found it, I want to add it to the cart straight away. Let's go and drop in the add to cart. At the moment, we have a variable product, so it gives us the wording for select options. If, however, we had a different item, it would then say something completely different. In fact, let me just show you. If I just hit update for a moment and then go over to my shop archive page, you can now see how this is currently. We haven't aligned this, so ignore the fact it's not in line. But we've got select options, and then you got number 1, add to cart. Let's just zero it all out. Give me 20 from the left, and then we'll go with about minus 15 for the top. Just made a duplicate of the field over here, and where I do the tags or the stack, rather than picking the terms, product terms, I've gone and picked the product short description. So this gives you an idea of what it would look like. So remember, because you're in container, I can put these items wherever I want. I can rearrange them. I can do what I want, okay? The final thing I'm going to do is just set the style of this button. We go to style, we go to button. Just check your typography, add in a hover effect to the button, and then just check that you're happy with it. If we turn back to my home page, you'll notice that all of my items are stacked, kind of like against one another. And I want to maintain that look. The slight problem, though, is the shop is very spaced out. So I'm going to go in and add in some border here. So I'm going to go over to my main container. I'm going to go to style, and I'm going to go and give it a border. I'm going to give it a solid border. I'm only going to keep it 1. I'm going to keep it really, really, faint. It's not going to be like blatantly in your eye, but you will notice it. We'll go with a bit of a faint color, so it's not pure on black, and you can see it there. And we now look at our page, how it currently looks. Now, you are going to see gaps here. That's because we've not done the final step, which is setting the query. Okay, but what we now have are borders. Once you've done all that, double check how it looks on the mobile. And that is looking okay. However, I have now noticed the bottom over there. So I've zeroed out all the margins and padding. And I'm now just going to add in a little bit of spacing here and 30 at the bottom there. So that's now looking pretty good now. Let's just hit go back to the desktop. Obviously, check on your tablet as well. Hit update and then hit save and back. If I click on the loop grid, this is now using template number 309. We had 2 templates for the blog. Well, one was for the blog, one was for the sidebar. This is now the template for the products. Let's now go and set up how it looks. We have the options now activated for the number of columns and the number of items per page. I'm actually going to increase that to be a 12. I think we only have 9. Yeah, we only have 9 products. I'm then going to go to style, and when we zero those all out, now everything is going to be sat quite snug against one another. Now, I accept that the height of the images or those blocks is bigger than what we had on the home page, but in terms of layout, it will still fit. And in a way, the blogs are quite verticular because you have the text over there as well. If we go to the query tab, you can also start to decide on how you're going to order your items. So are you going to order by the name, the date they were entered, the popularity in terms of how many sales they've had as well. I'm going to set this in name order, and I'm going to go for ascending like that. And the other option we also have is pagination. Now, I've set this to show 9 products. What if I set it to show like 3 across and 2 rows? So I only show 6. You could then also say, well, what are you going to now enable? So I might go for like a previous or next option. So let me just go back to my layout. Let me change this to be 3, for instance, and then you'll now see the previous or next kick in with the pagination. So bear that in mind. If you activate it and you're showing all 9, that ain't going to show because there's nothing else to lead off to. And then we have the grid builder, which we are going to use when we now want to do some filtering on the actual shop page. This is the page that will be used for when you now click over to now go look at category specific, for instance. Let me show you that. If I just go and hit publish, it will now say, where do you want to show this? I'm going to go with add condition and leave it as all product archives. You could, if you want, go and set it as your shop page, your search results, or anything like that. I'm going to leave it as all product archives because once you click backpack, I want you to land here. Also, there is something I forgot to do. I need to go back a step. I must do this before we get onto this bit. You could also do the product categories as well. So you could have a different looking layout for backpack, rucksack, or casual. Now, before I go and set this, let me just hit save and close. If I go back over to my query, this is quite important. Make sure your source is set to current queries. Manual selection, related products, all of that. You know, if you want to be very manipulative over what you're going to show, but I'm going to show current query. Because this is where the ordering kind of slightly goes out the window because now it's all going to depend on what you go and pick. Let's just hit update, add condition, and now leave it as all product archives. Now we'll hit save and close. Now, if we go back to our blog page, before we did the one with the grid builder filtering, we want to maintain consistency with how everything looks. So I'm going to copy this entire container. I'm going to hit paste there. I'm then going to go over to my navigator and make sure the container I've just pasted is now sat above. And you'll now see the items. If we just click on there, I'm going to remove that. And I'm now going to pick up the one we just created and drop it in. And then I'm going to get rid of the old one like that. And then I'm just going to change the title over here. Get the right gear. You can be quite inventive. You don't just want to put the word shop products because it feels a little bit lackluster. So be a little bit imaginative over what you're showing. So this is where you'll end up if you were to go and hit the casual button or the rucksack, but it's not the actual shop page that we're going to be advertising inside the menu. What I'm going to do is copy this because once you've done it once, you want to kind of reuse it elsewhere because we're going to use the same template again. We're not going to change the layout. When you go back to pages and scroll down, you will already see one over here called shop. So this is where WooCommerce creates pages. Do you remember I mentioned the cart, the checkout? But sometimes what it does do is go and add in duplicate pages like over here. So if you see 2 cart pages, I'm going to view the one that WooCommerce has created that's identified as cart. And then I'm going to open the other one that is also cart and just have a look at the difference. This page that has not been assigned cart page is bringing up the cart, and we are going to modify this and how it looks. However, the second page, which actually does have cart page identified, actually says this. Oh, you found an old path. It's gone and brought up our 404 page. So my advice is get rid of the ones that aren't working. And one of the other tips, in case you do get this issue, is go and hit quick edit. That one says cart. The other one says cart 2. So if you have a checkout 2 or a my account 2, like over here, you want to get rid of those pages. Of course, this is where you may have a problem because let me show you what happens if you try and delete this. If I hit trash, you're going to get this. Error, can't move it. Do you remember why? If you go to WooCommerce and you go to settings, do you remember the advanced tab? where we identify where everything goes. That's because at the moment it is going to one of those pages. So we know that 281 is where it's already going. 282. I want to go to 281. If I go to checkout, I can see the description is 284. I want to go to 283. If I go to the account page, which is 286, and I just type in I want to go to 285. Terms and conditions is absolutely fine. Then go and hit save changes. Now, majority of the time you will not come across this, but if you do and you got 2 pages and you're a bit unsure, just check the one that's errored out. Usually it's got a hyphen number 2 in the URL. Make sure you are now looking at the correct pages and now go and remove them. So now I can get rid of this checkout because look, it's the one with the hyphen 2, but now it's no longer assigned. I can now trash it out. Now the shop page at the moment, if you were to view this, it's going to be bringing over the archive that we've just gone and created here. So let's now look at the shop page. That's what it's pulling over, okay? It's not any different, but we don't want that. And if you were to go over to pages now and you click edit, and then you click edit with Elementor, you will get this message saying you can't edit. You got to enable safe mode. And then you go and enable safe mode, and then you try and edit, and then you hit another problem, and you start to pull your hair out. And then sometimes people go and install a theme that's already got everything built in because they start to struggle. It's because of the way that this currently is hooking up to a template. So what you want to do, okay, and trust me, this is completely safe to do. I'm going to rename this. So I'm just going to call this shop results like that. And I'm just going to change the hyphen also to be shop results. Now, you don't have to do it this way. I like to do it because I'm going to have a different looking shop page, ever so slightly different with Gridbuilder for filtering than what happens when you click on it. So we've done that. What you then need to do is go over to Woocommerce, go to settings, go to products, and ensure that this says shop results. This is not your shop page. This is where you will go when you are using the product archive. So when you click it, it takes you to that specific page, okay, which is using the products archive template. What we're going to do instead is create a completely new page. We're going to click add new. I've called it shop. And to be honest, when for shop pages, don't try to be too fancy with what you call it. My factory. No, just call it shop. Then click edit with Elementor. Now you can go in with edit with Elementor. If I go back over to my archive page, which is here, I'm just going to pick up the entire template because I'm going to reuse the items. Go over to my new shop page, go to the settings in the bottom left, hide the title, and then I'm going to paste everything in its entirety. I will go over to my loop grid. Remember, hit the pencil to edit it. Go over to query, and I'm going to say, now show me my latest products. And this is now in title ascending order. But let's go a step further, because if we now look at the blog page, we had these nice little filters that we had. Well, let's go and create that. And if you haven't watched the rest of the video or the previous ones, you are going to need the Gridbuilder plugin. There are many other plugins out there, but for working with Elementor Loop Grid, this is brilliant. It's not free. There is no free version. It is $49 per year. I'm not affiliated to them or anything like that, but I have found it is the quickest and easiest and smoothest way of working with loop grids. So once installed and activated and you've put your license key in, you go over to Gridbuilder and you go to all facets. Here's where we created one for the blog category. I could, if I want, just duplicate it or create from scratch. But let's do it from scratch in case you haven't followed through. We're going to click create a facet and I'm going to call this one product categories. And then I'm going to copy the title and I'm going to paste it here as well as the facet title. You can hit save changes at this point if you want. I'm then going to go to behavior. So we're going to have a filter for, say, the price. We'll do a filter for the categories. We'll do a filter for attributes. Now, remember, I've only done the color attribute for, say, some of the bags, not all of them. So you want to be careful over what you show here because it sometimes doesn't work very well, but I'll show you that. And we're also going to do one for sorting the items as well. So for now, let's just go with filter and buttons. I do like the button look. I really do like that. Let's just scroll down. We are now going to ensure that we pick the product categories, which is here. If you were going to only do it for, say, the backpack, where we had a subcategory, then you would go here and go and type in backpack, and it would then pick it, and then you could have your subcategory. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave the logic as and, so you can pick and choose what you want. And in terms of display, are we going to show empty choices? I don't really want to do that. I think it's very, very pointless. Are we going to show the choice count? We could do or not, but I definitely think there's nothing worse than when you see a category, you pick it and it goes, there's no items. I really hate that. And some people go, yeah, but I'm letting you know that we sell them and we will have them at some point. I don't care. Just show me what you have available right now. Let's just hit save changes. Let's go back to all facets and add in a few more. I'm going to add in attribute color. Now I'm just letting you know now that this probably won't work very well because I haven't done it for all of the items, but I just want to show you how it operates. Let's go to behavior. We're going to go for a filter system. And we're going to go for color picker. Now, Gridbuilder is really, really clever in how it starts to identify colors, even though when I did the attribute, you might have noticed that it had the word like Gridbuilder or color picker. I didn't actually do that. It will automatically assign the colors for me. And it is really clever how based on the wording it does that. Let's go down here to taxonomy. You can choose other fields as well. So if you've got a custom field, you could use that as well for any of your filtering. Let's go to taxonomy. And when I scroll down, you'll see product color. That is the field I added in as an attribute. So it's now going to pick it. We're not going to have any parent terms. We're not going to include or exclude. We'll now do one for a price range. So let's do create a facet. Go to filter. And then we'll go for range slider. Now, this is the point where you could get a little bit mixed up because if you start scrolling down here, you're not going to see prices. In fact, you won't see in any of here. And you're going to start to go, well, how can I do a slider with my Woocommerce prices then? Here's what you need to follow. Make sure you've done everything I've said here. Filter, range slider. Then go over to your custom field. Then pick post field. It's a little bit like go here and go there. But once you've done it and you follow these steps, you'll be fine. Inside here of the custom field, you then want to go and type in price. Or you can type in WC price, but just start typing in the word price. And what you're after is here. So are you after the sell price, the regular price? What do you want to go for? I would say just go for the price. Because if only half of your items are the sale price and half don't, then don't pick sell price. Just like if half have got a regular and half don't because they've got a sale price. Do you get the idea? So just go for the price because that's the valid price at this point in time, whether they have a sale or not. Let's add in our last facet. Not very imaginative, I know, but you know, you get the idea. Let's go to behavior. We're going to click sort. So I'm going to pick custom field. And then over here, I'm now going to pick my field and go with price. So we'll go with the price there. I'm going to say we go in low to high. So we go in the ascending order and I'm going to say low to high. We'll go and add in another field. And this one will just kind of do price high to low. Or you might want to do ascending, descending, anything like that. Let's just scroll down to custom field again. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because it's not really a custom field, but it is a custom field. So just go with it. Let's just type in price again. And we got WP price. I'll add in another option where I could go for post title and I could say name A to Z as well. So I'm showing you different ways that you could write it. We'll put that in ascending order. Let's go for post date and we're going to say put latest and we're going to have it in descending order. Yes, because we want the latest date there. Now at the moment it's just going to be a drop down, but if you enable a combo box, that means that not only will you have a drop down, but you also have a search bar as well. Because I'm adding in a lot of items here, I'm going to leave this off. So if you don't want to have like a searchable text field so they can go and type in backpack or whatever, you can leave that off. So we have quite a wide range of facets now. Let's go back over to our shop page, which is over here. Remember, this is the shop page, the new one, not the archive, the shop page. We're now going to go over here and I'm going to go and type in, not grid, sorry, I'm going to type in facet. And I will now drop this in. And then I'm going to select my facets. So the first, I could go for any one of these up here now. I'm going to go for product categories first. Select the elemental loop grid. Now, it's already knows that it's got to select this one because there's only one on the page. If you ever get stuck because you've got more than one loop grid, click on the loop grid. Go down here to where you have an option called WP Gridbuilder, and it will give you the ID 7FB, sorry. If you go over here, you'll see it's the same one there. I mean, there is only one, so we don't really need to worry about it. If you see this warning, don't get worried, okay? Remember, we pulled over our loop grid that we copied from the shop archive page. So if I click over here, because the loop grid is there, I know it looks invisible, but it's there, and you'll see it in the navigator. If you go down to query, it's currently pointing to the current query, and this confuses the WP Grid Builder. So go and put it to latest product, so it's now in ascending order. And now our filters appear. What I really like about this in terms of styling, if we just click over here on the facet, is I can change the title to be a 0. I could then get rid of it. I could do a bit of movement with the padding or the margin, so I can decrease the spacing. I can change the color of the button, the highlight color, the font, the outline, all of that. There are so many options here for you. And really quickly, I've already gone and applied it. I'm going to show you how this works in a moment. I'm actually going to duplicate it first, go over here, and I'm now going to pick the attribute color. And you will now see the color. Let me now hit update and show you why having colors only for some products is not a good idea. So if I click casual, it shows me casual. If I go for backpack, it shows me backpack. If I go for all, it puts them all back into title ascending order, because that's how we set it up. However, watch what happens if I go and click orange. Yes, that bag is not orange, but that's because it's a variable product. But do you notice how everything else disappears? And you have to click it again to go back. So let's say you've got the color black, but you've only done that for, say, 4 products, and there's 5 other products that also have black. Unless you add that attribute color to every single product, and it's so easy to do, it's in the video, okay, we've covered it, then this can actually go against you. Right, let's just go back to the shop. Now, for simplicity, I am going to remove the color one, but I wanted to show you how you could do it. Let's go and pick price range now instead, and it is very big at the moment, and you can see the style of it is 1035. So let's just go back over to our facets, go to our price range, which is this one here. I'm going to say we'll put the pound sign at the start. I'm going to say we will have 2 decimal places, and you can now see what it's done. Now this is really, really wide. We are going to shorten this, but I want to bring everything over first. Let's just duplicate this, and again now bring in our last item, which was the Woo Sort. Very imaginative name, right? And that's it. But let's now get everything to be sat in one line. Let's go over to our parent container. This is currently set as a column. I'm now going to make it all be a row. The moment you do that, you can basically see what's happened. Everything is now kind of just gone in a bit of a convoluted state. It is all in wrap as well, which is fine. I'm now going to go over to my title, go to advanced, it is full width. Great. Let's then go down over here to the loop grid, go to advanced, and again set this to be a full width so it stretches all the way across. Remember though, everything in here is already set to be a 1100 container because we're just reusing what we had before. Now we have our items kind of sitting and looking a little bit better, but I do want to make them a little bit wider. So I'm going to go here to my price one. I'm going to set this to be a custom width, and I'm now going to increase this. Now you could use pixels, you could use REM as well, whatever size you want to go for. I'm just going to go with 25% for now. Clicking back onto the container, I am going to say set the content to be justified as space between. So this is right on the left. The sorting is right on the right, and then we have some nice equal spacing between them. Let's now click update and view this. So if we pick backpack, we know it's going to work. I could go over here and now shrink the prices down to be, say, let's just go with $12.99. There you go. It's only going to show me those items, and it takes into account the sale price. Let's hit reset, and it puts it all back. And how about if we sort these to be from prices high to low, which it has now done. As a filtering system, Gridbuilder is
damn impressive.
But we still have a little bit of a problem. If I go and click this is just plain ugly. So let's go and improve it and make it a bit more like how we nicely laid out our blogs.